Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SSRG and Your View. Today, we'll be discussing something that has been trending in Nigeria's social media space, but this is something that is prevalent all over the world, and it's the concept of NEPO and LAPO babies. If you're not familiar with this, NEPO babies are children born with unlimited privilege, people whose parents had a lot of money, so they had access to resources. While LAPO babies are people who have limited or little access to privilege or opportunities. So today we'll be taking a spin on it and trying to dig deeper. So the first thing I wanted to, throw to my colleagues here are, how do you think that this whole concept of NEPO and LAPO babies amplify the stereotype of God blessing people or not? Lapo, sometimes when it's discussed, it's as if some people were born to be rich, like it is their destiny to have those access to resources, while
Yeah.
other people, no matter how, people would maybe blame them for not working hard or blame them for having parents who didn't work hard. How do you think like structural systems amplify this concept of privilege and lack of privilege?
Mm. Thank you so much for that question. That's really interesting, and in Nigeria, I don't know for a lot of other places in Nigeria, but at least in Igbo land, there is a saying that's na ogaranya na esi na chi. That is that wealth comes from God, right?
Hmm.
And now that
Hmm.
that that saying makes you ask yourself, does it mean that poor people do not have a good relationship with God or something? So I think this idea of NEPO babies reinforces that because in Nigeria, everything that should be in the hands of the government, for instance, we believe these things are in the hands of God. So
Hmm.
the things that the government should be providing for us, the things that we should be enjoying as our basic rights as citizens, we go to churches instead to ask God to do them.
Nigerians, when they travel abroad, they become less religious because
Exactly.
they are living in society where their needs are provided. They don't
I'm a
need to run to
living
God
I'm a
anymore for
living
it.
witness.
Exactly. So how I think about it is that when somebody is born into wealth, when you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, this does not necessarily have to do with God or how religious
Mm.
your parents or you are yourself. You just have this opportunity because you have it. And the other person that doesn't have it, it's because of a lot of reasons, because there are a lot of
Mhm.
reasons why people are poor.
I think that poor people, like people would always want to make excuses for people who are underprivileged or poor or under-resourced. And so they would make excuses like they are being lazy, they have a bad chief, for example, just like Emma has cited, like I'm gonna watch him. And that's something people will say in Igbo society that they don't have a good chief that is. But these people are actually working. But the real truth is that the system has not been favorable for them. The system, they are struggling from a place of nothing. They've not had a head start, whereas the LAPO people have had a head start to life. They have the resources, their parents are rich and well to do. And so they already have a head start. So whether prayer or not, they already have
Yeah.
that success going on for them.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
my question is, what are those structures? Let me give an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are from Southeast Nigeria, a lot of people from Southeast Nigeria believe in quote unquote the American dream, which
Right.
entails that if you work hard, you will succeed. And part
Mm-hmm.
of why that is there is because after the Civil War, people from the Southeast lost everything. The government
Right.
took everything. So there was a system set up by the government to make sure that people from the Southeast do not rise up again. And a lot of people has struggled and worked hard and lifted themselves out of poverty without the government's support.
Yeah.
So what are other structures like in a wider space? What are other structures that or systems that keep people demarcated from privilege and lack of privilege?
I think one of the other structures is education. Education for me is a huge structure because I grew up in Lagos and I kind of saw how this educational structure can place people under like people who are in the high class, middle class, and lower class. So people who are in the middle and low class would attend public schools that are not well funded, while people who are in the high class would attend private schools. But bear in mind, while I attended private school, I was also like in the average middle class or even low class, you know. So private school even gets class. The educational
So
system right
you
from
are
the
saying access to education is something
yes,
huge. And if you look
yes,
at northern Nigeria, there are a lot of poor people who do not have access to education.
exactly. And this was, I think, it was propagated by the colonial era, where there were elite schools and then there were underfunded schools that the poor people would usually go to.
It's interesting that you mentioned colonial era because I was listening to Fela's song,
Mm.
uh, Lady.
Oh,
If you call a woman, she will say,
she go say,
I
I
be
be
lady.
lady. Oh. Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to my partner that this is a colonial thing because in the past, the ladies were high class, the elite. So
Mm-hmm.
women who think that they are elite did not want to be identified as women or
As
called
women.
women, but they want to
Yes.
be called ladies. So
Sure.
there is always a parallel to colonization and how it sets certain structures and systems in our society.
And even apart from that, the media is another important factor that reinforces all of these.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
these days, whether it is print media, whether it is social media, mass media, and all of that, you will always see a different demarcation, like a clear-cut demarcation.
Mm.
How
Yeah.
poor men, even the way that term alone, poor people, is stereotypical for me. So
Mm.
if
Mhm.
you go on social media, almost on all social media platforms, you will always, on your feed, you will always see something like broke guys, poor men, poor boys,
I
and
can't
all.
date broke guys.
Of course,
I
I cannot date broke guys.
A broke guy na red flag. Wetin always guy wey no get money
That
do? Me, I
that's
don't get money.
like that self-fulfilling prophecy of the labeling theory, that
yeah.
even a lot of us that do not have money, we even refer to ourselves as broke people, and we even feel that we are not qualified to gain some things because we are broke. For instance, a lot of guys will tell you, I do not deserve to be a boyfriend to a girl like this.
Mm.
Mm.
So automatically people accept that this is who they are, and it is because of the way they are talked about all
I
the
think
time.
Mm.
I think if you want to
So people
see
internalize that.
exactly,
Exactly, and it's because of the media.
I think what you just explained, if you want to see a vivid example of this classism, LAPO versus NEPO babies, I watched a film recently that just came out. I think it just came out, Killing a Monkey. There you would see a Nigerian movie. I think it was by Kemi Adetiba, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You would see a clear example of how this guy struggled from nothing. Like, because he had nothing, he didn't have a head start. He kept struggling. And people kept saying, just like Emma was saying about saying things, portraying things, and he began to internalize those things. Things like you're a good for nothing, things like you're cursed from God, things like you should go for deliverance, you can never make it. And those kind
Yeah.
of statements reinforces those stage that the person is in.
And
Yeah.
it is sad that in our country, not just in our country, but in a lot of other countries of the world, it seems a certain people in a country are the ones that are always poor. And something is responsible. In many
Yeah.
countries, corruption is responsible for this. Because
Yeah.
people who work hard, people who go to school, people who learn skills, people who do a lot of things to become very useful and productive to the society, they don't make any headways. They don't gain anything because the people who actually do nothing take all the money. They send their kids abroad. They give them the best of education. They give them the best of gadgets in the world to use from infancy. But on the other hand, you go to school, you struggle, you do a lot of things, and then you even grow above 30 and you have nothing.
I
And
think
then you remember the saying that at a certain age, you are no longer from a poor background. You are the poor background yourself.
I think
But before we overshoot this, I have another question. I
Yeah.
mhm,
remember when I was in secondary school, and even when we were in university, when we worked in Nsukka prison, there was this narrative that a rich person can easily imprison a poor person in Nigeria.
mhm,
So, but that's a narrative, and like you meet some people when we are working in the prison who said, "I'm in prison just because I disagreed with a rich person in my community."
right.
So, which shows that the lack of respect accorded to people who do not have money. So, my question is, what are the implications of this clear classism in our society, especially the narrative surrounding them? Like, how does it impact the well-being of everyone in our society, both the rich and the poor?
Of course, it's very clear that it increases crime rate.
Mhm.
It's very obvious because when you refer to a set of people as poor, and we know that these are people who are always poor, and just like we've talked about, they internalize it. This is the reason you see in our current society that, especially the youth, they can do anything just to break out of that class.
Just like what you said
Yeah.
about the crime now, goes back to the movie I was talking about. This guy struggled for a while and then had to do illegal things just to make it. So if those things keep being perpetrated, it will force people to do illegal stuff they wouldn't do on a normal day just to survive and meet up with that class that people
And the way
promote.
people are doing, the way people are going about it right now, people who are so productive to the society, they begin to doubt themselves. Because
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of people, I've seen posts on social media where people ask, what then is the need of going to school in the first place, for example? When
But
you
but
study for 4 years, 5 years, and somebody does one or two things that is not really recognized and they become rich,
but
and you are just there.
to re-emphasize your points, Prince, I think but the hearsay about, even though we do not have facts about it, the hearsay about people being rich, putting people who are poor in prison can be true and is true to a large extent. Because come to think about it, you would have issues with human beings on a normal day. But the fact that you don't have money means you can't get good representation from a counsel, from a lawyer.
Oh, I have seen this happen. I know someone in
You
Enugu
nobody is even
who
doubting it.
who
Mhm,
impregnated someone,
mhm,
a girl, and the girl's father was rich. So the
mhm.
girl's father arrested him and put him in prison. And I'm asking, did he rape the girl? No, they were dating. The only
Okay.
crime he committed was that he
Was
was a poor person impregnating a rich person's daughter.
you
That
can
was his
imagine.
only crime.
See,
So,
Prince, it seems you don't understand. The problem is that once you are poor, in Nigeria, for example, nobody believes what you say in difficult situations.
Mm,
It is
mm,
only the rich man that has the mouth that say
mm.
to say something. Nobody is going to listen to you in the first place. And then, of course, you know the background work that goes. The rich man could just go, give some paper to some people and then they do whatever he asks them to do, which is very sad.
mm.
I
Yeah.
think another consequence that we should be looking at, because I think Ima was hinting on the consequences of this classism, is that it undermines social cohesion. It undermines even meritocracy in our society. It undermines those things, which are the ideal values of every society should thrive or pursue.
I do agree with you, especially regarding meritocracy, because if you look at some spaces in Nigeria, like if you're applying for a job and who's is from a rich family is applying for the
Mhm.
same job, you do not have a chance. Like even if
Yeah,
you graduated with first class distinction, the person would likely get the job above you. So
Sorry to interrupt you, Prince, but you don't even need to say when somebody from a rich family is applying for the same jobs. They don't even apply. Just say when they are making phone calls for the same call. Because
mm,
their
true,
father will just make a phone call and they get the job. They don't necessarily attend the interviews that you spend the whole day attending, which is
mm,
too
true,
bad.
true.
And they are
mm,
the ones that mess up the offices because they are
mm.
Mm.
not competent.
But there's something, sorry, Prince, something in me
Go
also
ahead.
feels like politics, like our government, like I know you might have said it, but everything still ties back to bad leadership, policies, and politics. Because if we have a working government who that is responsible, then everyone will have equal opportunity, equal access to resources, economic resources, educational resources, and then that playing ground will be leveled to some extent to give people that equity or equitable playing ground to try for themselves. So I think policies and politics has a lot to do with this.
So, what do you think
Mm.
I was talking about when I say somebody gives someone some papers? of course, of course, you should know this.
Considering that this is something that is very complex, how do we start addressing this classism, this problem of classism? I know we cannot, like, if we have this magic bullet to classism, we would probably win a Nobel Prize. But
Mm.
what are the small steps we can take to start addressing classism?
I, it's huge, and I'm trying to process it. But I think one of the small steps, which is also huge, would be distributive justice, where people, for example, like it was so much social injustice against Igbo people to cut them out from every resources during the Biafran war that they had. I mean, during the Biafran war, cut them out, and I think it was about £10 or something that they gave to them. That's not fair.
Yeah.
So I feel like even for people and that's what Goodluck Jonathan was trying to do with their margeries. I think this is what we should do, distributive justice, in that people should be brought up to the level, at least a reasonable level, where they can compete favorably with other people.
Actually, before you continue answering that question, what you said made me think of something different. Because I want to ask, how does the classism benefit some people? Because I talked about the harm in the past, but I feel like there are people, because I remember when Jonathan wanted to address the Amajiri issue, there was a lot of kickback. There were
Right.
people who didn't want it to end. They wanted people to like education and be in poverty. So why are people invested in maintaining classism in Nigeria?
A lot of people are bent on maintaining it because for every bad situation there is somebody cashing in on that. So
True.
a lot of people, especially businessmen, this is not me talking down on business or saying people should not do their business, but there are a lot of businesses who reap even the classless we are talking about.
Example is NEPA. If they fix
Exactly.
NEPA, people who sell generator and fuel will not have customers.
And
Exactly.
in Nigeria, once you are poor, for every step you want to make, for every attempt you make to do something, somebody somewhere is going to ask you to pay some money to be connected. It's all about connection. And people are being ripped off the little resources they have every day and night. You don't have money to eat, and somebody tells you for you to get a job that pays you 40,000 in a month, you need to pay them 1.5 million to be able to get this job. So this is even the reason why the rich keeps on getting rich and the poor keeps on getting poor. So this is
Also,
the
I,
reason for the kickback.
I think the elite also take advantage of that because like the politicians during an election, they can give 1,000 to people and make them vote for them. But if those
Exactly.
people had been lifted out of poverty, those people would vote for who they actually want and who they think is going to make the country better.
When
Because
people
there is a close relationship between hunger and being insensitive. So when you are hungry, you are willing to do almost everything.
Yeah, because
So
every time
this
we
is
talk
why you're
about
right.
politics, you would hear people say, "Oh, you are selling your future for 1,000 naira." But the
right,
truth is that for somebody who hasn't seen food to eat in days,
1,000 naira is
when
more
you
than a future.
it's like the story of Esau and Jacob. The porridge
Yes,
is there. You
porridge,
have to eat it and
exactly,
stay alive first. You have to be
exactly.
alive before you are thinking of the future of the country.
Exactly. For people, 1,000 naira is more than, like, you need to know that people live way below the poverty line, which is like, I think around $2. There are people who live way below per day, $2 per day. People who live below that. So 1,000 naira for them is 1 million naira. So they can do anything to get that.
Bro, so thank you so much for this interesting conversation, and I hope our audience will enjoy listening to it. And please remember to like and subscribe.
Yes. And share our
Ciao.
video.
Thank you.
Thank